Mick, I'm not sure what your relationship is currently like with the former president, but do you know which case he's the most worried about of the four that he's being investigated for?
I don't have a close relationship with the president anymore. We had a falling out over January 6th. I quit my job in the administration the night of January 6th, so I've not talked to him since then. But I get a sense from talking to folks who are still around him in that inner circle in Mar-a-Lago, and from knowing what I know about him generally, I don't think this case in New York worries him in terms of going to jail. I think the one in Georgia probably worries him the most because it is a state charge, which means that a future Republican president could not pardon him. A president can only pardon people from federal crimes, not from state crimes. And they've got really hard evidence. They have voice recordings. Keep in mind, the evidence today introduced, or at least hinted at in New York, are nothing more than invoices and checks and ledger entries, pretty boring stuff. In Georgia, they have the president of the United States on tape saying, "Can you find me thus and such many votes?" That's fairly damning testimony. And I think that case, probably more than the other ones, concerns Donald Trump.
Looking at the details of the indictment outlined by Alvin Bragg, hush money is not illegal and Donald Trump paid for this out of his own finances. So what is the criminal element here?
The criminal element seems to be, Sharri, that it actually wasn't paid out of his pocket. It was paid out of one of his businesses. I believe it was one of the Trump family trust organizations, and that they booked that as legal expenses. And I believe, although I'm not sure about this, they may have taken it as a business deduction. But either way, if you book a hush money payment as something like legal expenses, that's a misreporting of those expenses. And that, under New York law, is a misdemeanor. If you put that together with doing it with the intent of committing another crime, it becomes a Class E or a very low-level felony. And Alvin Bragg is taking the position that Trump misreported this as legal expenses in order to gain an advantage in his 2016 presidential campaign, which Bragg contends would be a campaign finance violation, probably also another misdemeanor. That's where we get to that misdemeanor plus misdemeanor equals felony sort of formula. So there must be something else. And of course, then when the indictment was unveiled today, there wasn't anything else. There's no new evidence. There's no new witnesses. There's no new nothing. It's just this very tenuous sort of claim to try and create a felony where only misdemeanors seem to exist at first glance.
So it does seem to be a political witch hunt.
Certainly when you combine the facts that we've discussed, the facts that are in the indictment, with the fact that Alvin Bragg ran for office. Keep in mind, the district attorney in Manhattan is an elected position in the state system in New York State. When he ran saying essentially, vote for me and I'll indict Donald Trump. I know Donald Trump. I've sued his family 100 times. Vote for me and I will give you his head on a platter. When you marry those two things together, then you cannot help but raise the question as to whether or not there wasn't at least some political motivation here.